Hello, everyone, and welcome to this very, very, very special that's 10, but 5 year,
Just do
uh,
one hand, Jennifer.
our decade long, our 5 year Vox-A-Versary.
I can't believe it. This
Um,
is like as long as my first marriage. Are you going to leave me too?
I know, it's like this, I
Please
would
don't.
have to make a list of like my long relationships because I feel
I'm
like you're really like, you're up there. um, yeah, so that's amazing. I'm apologizing in advance. Like 2 minutes ago, our landscapers came. So if you hear like a really loud noise buzz by that sounds like a rocket, that's the riding lawnmower or the weed whackers, but they should
okay.
be done very fast.
You guys get a riding lawnmower has always seemed really fun to me because I live in Southern California where most people do not have big enough property to have that. So when our landscapers come by that are paid for by our landlord, they're only hitting the front as far as like a lawnmower, and they are not riding anywhere on like it's like 4 square feet. You don't.
Ours, yeah, there's like a whole team and they
Nice.
zoom by so fast. It looks so much fun. Um, because I'm like, oh, they're going so fast, and like our yard is very hilly. Like
Oh,
it,
that's
it
right.
seems it seems dangerous because they're
It
like
might be.
zooming down, zooming up. But it is 1,000 degrees out there today,
I'm
so I
sorry.
feel bad for them. But yes, enough about my landscapers. Welcome to Vox Vomitus, 5 year anniversary. Allison, I'm Jennifer Ann Gordon, your co-host, one of your Vox
Yes.
Vixens. I am the author of Pretty Ugly, the Japanese Box and Other Stories, and the Hotel series, which includes From Daylight to Madness and When the Sleeping Dead Still Talk. I am also the author of something else that we will not really talk about, but talk a little bit around in a little while. Joining me today, as always, and for the past 5 years, is my co-hostess with the mostest, Allison Martine Hubbard, author of The Bourbon Books, which includes Dibs in September, Move on Melinda, Climb the Salmon Ladder, Ranchers Take Manhattan, soon to be something else in the Bourbon Books series.
Yeah, I have a cheesy Christmas novella that I just feel like writing. So Lori Sunkist will get her book, and it will be ridiculous. So
I
I
cannot wait
actually
for
have to
that.
write that first, but
You have to write it, but you are officially you're officially writing it because you talked to me about it last night. So
oh, that's how that works.
that's how it
Oh,
works officially.
well, to be fair, it is the next thing I have on deck. I do have a book that is being beta read, and then I'm going to be querying that. And Jennifer's one of the people reading it. And I found out what alcohol Jennifer's allergic to after she's like, this is not right for the time period. And then I told her she needs to drink one at an upcoming dinner she's having. And she said, I can't. I'm allergic to it. And I'm like, maybe that's why you thought it was wrong.
But I
like,
will say, so the drink in question is the Negroni.
The Negroni.
Which Stanley Tucci made
Stanley Tucci.
wildly famous a few years ago because it's like his drink of choice. So of course, a few years ago, my husband Roman and I are on vacation, and we were like, it just looks cool. I didn't know what was in it.
I like the name.
I love the name. It looked like it's served in a great glass. Figured out it was gin. I'm like, oh, I can't have that. But Roman loves gin, so he got the Negroni. I could take a small sip, and I'm going to tell you, that tasted like gasoline.
Oh, okay. So maybe it's not the best drink for anybody other than Stanley Tucci.
Yeah.
And if I keep doing the Stanley Tucci thing, one of my latest Instagram / whatever she's on obsessions is this fabulous comedian who does like all the American Girls. Like the
Yes.
dolls, and does parodies of them. And she also does this thing about wearing pants, which so whenever I wear pants, I run around kicking around the house going, I'm in pants.
Every time I look terrible, I'm like, my name's Mary Beth Ellen and I'm dying of cholera.
Exactly.
My parents, yeah.
And all of her stuff is like,
factory fire.
Yeah, feature an orphan, an inappropriate father figure, Stanley Tucci. And I'm like, I guess he's in the movies because I haven't seen them, but I love that. So when you said Stanley Tucci, I had to go there. But we've already gotten wished happy anniversary by Amanda Demore. I'll put her comment back up. Thank you, Amanda. Yay, Amanda. And Elisa told me this earlier, and she said how auspicious it is that our 5th anniversary lands on National Paperback Book Day, which I didn't know. And technically, I don't know what our day is because we always go on like the same day of the week, and we were looking at our schedules and need to like.
So yeah, we're actually a little bit late.
It was earlier in July, but we will claim the whole month. Like one of my
it's
besties, like she claims August as her entire birthday month, which she's.
Are you talking about me?
I'm pretty sure it's because you guys are both Leos, so you're just like, this is our month. So August
this is our
just
month.
belongs
This is
to
our
my
season.
Leos.
So I remember that our very, very first episode, half a decade ago,
dude,
was 4th of July week. I believe it was on like a July 5th or 6th.
Yes. And I remember that partially because, so this will take you back. So we live in a duplex, we rent, and we have these lovely landlords who are really doing a great job of keeping up with the property. But sometimes we don't necessarily get like super tons of notice. So like we'd been living there for a few years and they're like, we're putting on a new roof. And this was the middle of COVID. And just after we'd agreed to do this show, and I'm like, how loud are roofers going to be above me? It was not an issue, but I was just like, this is going to be fun. Bang, 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 bang. So like the landscape thing, this has been a tradition for us of what random thing is happening, because unlike probably real podcasters who go into like studios, we're just in our places and whatever is going on outside we have to deal. So
exactly.
Cats and dogs and children.
Cats, dogs, children. I remember also I remember your roofing incident, and I remember when we first moved into the place we're in now, we were getting a new roof.
What is it with roofs?
And I was like, please don't come on Wednesdays between at that time it was like 5 and 6 or whatever.
They're not gonna. Well, yours, it may have been done late enough the day. And part of the reason I would remember this is, so even though the laws recently changed to allow fireworks, our area was always, we get just tons of crazy fireworks where it does sound like a war zone. My friends who've been in the service are like, thank you for triggering my PTSD. It's bad. And because of it, there have been times where like, I am really worried about our roof. And then after that happened, like with the new roof, I was standing out with our neighbor, the one we share a wall with. And we're like, we're so glad we have a new roof right now, as we watch things sail over that. We used to have shingle where it totally could have gone up. And now it's like, thank you for making our house a little bit less like a tinderbox.
So it's been quite a few years. It's been quite a journey.
Our show is in kindergarten this fall.
Our show should be like reading books 2 grades above its reading level.
Well, yeah, if it's our kids.
But I feel like Vox Vomitus, besides my dog, is the closest thing I have to a child.
I think it's fair. And like the whole span of this show, one of the things I was reflecting back on this morning, I was talking about like our repeat offenders, some of the guests we've had on multiple times. I reached out to say hi to one of them this morning, and I realized using that term, I was using it tongue in cheek, but how have we dodged the bullet that none of our guests have been canceled? None of our guests have gotten in big trouble. They've all blown up in the best way possible. So like,
I feel like we're really good judges of character. So there's that.
I hope so.
And also I think, I don't know, luck, but also these people have become our friends over the past 5 years, and we wouldn't be friends with people who are doing something atrocious to bookstagrammers or doing some racial tirades on TikTok. Like those are just not the people that we
would want on the show
with, and they wouldn't want them on the show.
But there have been people who that's happened where people didn't see it coming. So it's just like, oh, that hasn't happened where we go, but we loved so-and-so and their book was amazing and they were amazing. And my heart.
I will say there is a big time author who has been trying to get on the show through his publicist that I've said no to multiple times, stating, I won't even say which controversy it is, but
there's probably more than one with this person.
And it was a pretty big one. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I know they will never be on the show, point blank, because of this thing they did. And even the publicist is like, I understand, but I had to try. They're my client. Yeah.
They like you. Sorry, dude. And meanwhile, Ed has told us, Ed Amar says, happy anniversary. You two make me feel happy, also mildly drunk. Ed, I have been drinking coffee, and I'm pretty sure there's like keto creamer in it and no booze. But can you drink for me? That would be great. I would appreciate that. What are you drinking? You've got a pretty like palm.
I have my like beachy cup. For some reason, I'm looking very much like I should be on a boat. I'm drinking bubble water.
I
with
have enough
vodka.
of Red Bull for when I get
I'm like,
thirsty.
I threw a little bit of vodka in there. I wasn't going to, but then I saw your thing that said it's been half a decade, grab a drink, and I'm like, well, half a decade.
Yeah. Well, and also it's going to hit people at different times. So for our UK viewers, this is fine. For me personally, I will be going into an actual office later today, so I probably shouldn't be hitting the stuff, or they'd be like, "What are you doing back there, rolling around in your office?" I'm like, I don't know.
I'm not doing anything today, really.
Process. But I did want to say, like, so okay, we have people. Nobody's done anything terrible. You'll have to tell me that controversy later because we don't want to.
Oh, I feel like because we have Ed's comment up, and I know Ed's watching.
Yes, Ed is watching.
Ed has the greatest newsletter. So if you like crime fiction, people, you should be reading Ed Amar's newsletter. It is something I legitimately look forward to it. He also got like a new pen today that had a great typo about his newsletter. Anyways, Ed is one of my favorite people. I know he's one of your favorite people.
Yeah, and Ed's hilarious. So a newsletter from him, even if it's like crime, you're like, but it's funny. So you're fine. You're fine. So I would recommend
Ed and I also, I feel like, are like agent family in a way, because his agent Michelle Richter is a New England crime bake regular.
Oh, got it. Okay, because I'm like, he's not represented by the same agency you are, so I got really confused there for a moment.
But his agent's also like besties with Paula.
Oh, okay.
So I always feel like we're like third cousins.
Third cousins, or like the kids whose parents are really good friends and have to go like watch movies together where the parents are doing adult things in another room and you have to entertain each other whether or not you actually like each other. Fortunately, you like Ed, so this is good.
I think Ed likes me. I'm just throwing that out there. Yeah. I think Ed likes me.
I don't think he would come on and say hi otherwise. He said, this wasn't really about me. Yes, it is, Ed.
Yes, it is, Ed.
It is about like all the guests, because like, so what I was going to say is none of our guests have done anything where we have to put out a public statement disavowing any relationship with. Instead, we've had like people totally blow up. So like I was telling a friend this morning who had an event. So her book came out. I will talk a little bit more about her later, but her book just came out as a debut and she's had several events and she was worried people wouldn't come to the third because like the people she knew were coming were at the first event and then people came who she didn't know. And she's like, well, it wasn't a huge turnout. And I'm like, look, I was at an event for an author that I know and it wasn't a huge turnout, but it was still a great event. And I'm like, and what was I doing earlier this week? Watching that same author show on Netflix, May Cobb. So it was just like, you never know. And yeah, so like that was one of the things we've seen so many people who we've had on the show go on to have movie deals and they're on Netflix and sign development deals for other things. And we know what development deals like. Who knows if those ever go through? Those are like off to the wind and may you come back. It's a dandelion.
But they sound very exciting. And I feel like
I have a cat in the window. I'm sorry for the crunch, 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 because JJ just went into my blinds.
Oops. I feel like so much of publishing, of writing, of this entire world, even podcasting, when people aren't in it, they think it's very, very exciting. And I was in an Uber the other day and I was just like chatting with the Uber driver and I said, oh, and I host a podcast. And he was just like, that must be so exciting. And I feel like because we've been doing it 5 years, I take it for granted now how exciting it really is to get to talk to these people that we absolutely adore, that we admire, that we are friends with now. As you said, like May Cobb, #1 show on Netflix right now. Like I still remember when May got hot sauce in her eye.
I didn't want to mention that because I feel like we've said that a lot, and I hope May doesn't go, why do you keep bringing that up? But it is just, I've gotten to meet her now in person. She is adorable. She is amazing. That show is so freaking sexy. I'm like, well, there's a pair of boobies I didn't expect to see. Hello.
So I haven't officially started it yet, but
I'm not spoiling anything. There's a lot of boobies.
This morning I got a text from a childhood best friend because I had posted something about Hunting Wives, like, congrats, May. So she texted me and she was like, my daughter and all of her friends were binge watching Hunting Wives. They're in college.
Oh, good. I was going
to say, we're binge watching Hunting Wives all last night. And she's like, and all she could hear was them screaming and cackling from the other room and coming out and saying, this is the best show. It is ridiculous. I love it. So I was like, yay, May Cobb. And May Cobb's also the only author that we've ever worn bikinis. during the
And
show for.
I would kind of like to keep that as
I know.
when I'm like, you were
This
not
is-
talking me into that twice. And for the record, I put on like my like rash guard over that afterwards because I'm like,
Yeah,
I know I do realize like for people watching, they probably think half the time I'm not wearing clothes because my hair covers. Like, look, there's a dress. I'm not showing too much. It's just my hair gets in the way and my hair is not cooperating. And I couldn't find my curling iron, but
you're fine.
it is where it is.
Back to the bikinis. No.
Yeah, no bikinis. Unless there's a really good reason. If May is like, but I need you to.
If she's writing Hunting Wives to, oh no, because that was my Summer Darlings.
Yeah, my Summer Darlings is why we had the bikinis. And I'm trying to think, have we ever read other books where a bikini would be appropriate? And there probably are.
I feel like all of May Cobb's books, a bikini is appropriate.
They would be, except like, so they'd be various bikinis because I'm trying to think of this the bikini, the specific outfits that she has in The Hollywood Assistant. Oh,
the red
God. I can't wear any of that. Are you
thong. I was like,
no, I'm not. No, we will link them to her characters, but development people, you have another show there or a movie or miniseries or whatever. There's just keep going down May's books. You'll find.
Yes, and I know she hasn't been on the show this past year.
Yeah, we need to have her back. We miss her.
But we both still buddy read The Hollywood Assistant together and loved it. So yeah, May is a multiple time appearer on Vox Vomitus, offender.
Offender. Well, it was David Slayton and David R. Slayton I was talking to as far as like the multiple appearance offenders and stuff. And he's like in the middle of getting a book ready to go. He's like, I've got multiple pieces that are out of order. I'm like, that's now an IKEA project, dude. But he's in.
All you need is an Allen wrench.
Yes, exactly. And I'm sure he can do that. But he's like one of the ones that I love so much. And he's like recently done the whole living the dream thing where we used to have to work around his work schedule. And now he's like full-time author, baby. And that really is the dream, because unless you are born into special circumstances, most of us, even after getting the deal, like I have so many friends who it's like, what do you mean you still have to have a job? It's like, yeah, because the advance is paid out slowly and then over time. And then hopefully you can get to the point where this is the thing you do. And then we have other people who are like, I don't know whether financially they would need to, but they love what they do. Like, I don't think Paul Tremblay would ever stop teaching because he loves that. And that's
loves it. And Carol Goodman also, she's a professor. She teaches.
Professor, yes.
Like, I don't think she would stop. And I think, I mean, I'm not going to speak about anybody's like financial things, but I mean,
there are people that are also jobs that they're like, I would not stop this because I love doing this. And I think the school that Paul teaches at, they would riot if he wasn't coming back.
Yeah, he's been like teacher of the year. Yes. And I can only speak for myself. I would not want to give up teaching ballroom dance.
Your feet may disagree certain days.
My
but
feet do disagree.
Your feet are like, no, I'm not doing this ever again. But yeah, because for those who don't know, Jennifer teaches ballroom and she teaches it 2 days a week. And so depending on how she's feeling those 2 days, it's all of her body those 2 days gets used more those 2 days than the rest of the week combined.
Yeah, it makes up for my almost completely sedentary writer lifestyle where
totally. But like
I'm just Gollum.
If you're not feeling great or you've hurt yourself, you're like, these are the positions I can have my students do where I won't die, where I won't go into complete spasm. I mean, I do have a bad back, but I can't dance anyway, so it wouldn't be an issue. But trying to think of, okay, how would I be able to do this feeling as, back full in spasm or my kid jumps on me and I'm like, this is why I'm in physical therapy again. Thanks a lot, kids.
Well, last weekend, I was very, very lucky. I got to go to one of my favorite literary conferences. It was my second year going, and it was honestly like one of the best weekends I've ever had in my life.
I had
Necon, Camp Necon. So Camp Necon's amazing. It takes place at a college called St. Anselm's in Manchester, New Hampshire. We get kind of like control over this campus. We live in the dorms. They feed us in the cafeteria. But where our dorms were and where like pretty much everything for the conferences was like a mile away, which isn't a lot, but walking back and forth with like schlepping a big bag filled of like too many books that I kept buying back and forth 6 to 10 times a day. Like I had blisters, and then maybe we like a little core group of us were doing some like witchy things in the woods.
I love how you tell everybody maybe after you told me this is what we did. So now you're qualifying it with maybe we did this.
Maybe we did this.
Sure.
Maybe I ended up with like bug bites on top of bug bites on top of bug bites. So then like, of course, the next weekend I'm teaching and I'm like, it's looked like I've been through a war. And they're like, "What? Why are you limping? Like, what's wrong? Like, why do you have so many bandages on your body?" And I'm like, "I was at a writers' conference,
And the bugs got me.
and the bugs got me because I was drinking champagne in the woods with my
Okay, here's
witches."
opening question, and this is stupid because I have known you go to this for several years. Is Nikon specifically for horror authors, or is that just who you hang out with? So that's who I recognize in the pictures.
It is predominantly horror writers, but it's also fantasy. It's also sci-fi.
So
It's
I'm
also
allowed to come
crime.
if I
You're
can
really
eventually like get my butt to
Yeah.
the
I
complete
mean, it's
opposite
very much
side of the country.
genre fiction
Okay, now that's cool.
and
I
a
just
celebration of
I
that.
couldn't see in the title where it said horror, but there were a lot of pictures I saw posted by not just you, but other people that we know. And I'm like, horror, horror, horror. Oh, where does it say this is for horror writers? But y'all are horror writers.
But last year, not this past year, but the year before, one of the guests of honor was Sean Cosby, another like longtime friend of our show.
But he dabbles in horror.
He does dabble in horror,
Yes.
but Sean is like another one of those people that really just blew up incredibly. He was in our very first year of shows,
Yes.
very early on.
His internet was not working. We had to switch to the phone. He
Yeah.
was still like one of the most fabulous interviews. That was actually a day of our double header.
That was
Do
our
you
double
remember? That
header.
was like
I
our
do
only
remember.
double header. So that was a weird thing where I thought I had scared away poor sweet Simon Stevenson by trying to communicate with him, and I thought I had frightened him. And then like there was some weird back and forth with his publicist people, and so we thought we didn't have a guest. Sean graciously stepped in, who was on our week. We want to schedule him, but he was like, "Sure, I'll come on."
Like
and then
last minute, like an
"Me
hour
too."
before.
And so we did both. So I like one of the most memorable things for me that day is this is before I was using these various lights that wash me out. We will discuss how pale I am some other time. Watching the light fade because I'm on the West Coast. It was like getting darker and darker, and I'm getting stripes through the blinds. I'm like, I am a zebra.
Yeah, like this is a marathon. But yeah, Sean is one of those people that like it couldn't have happened to a nicer person.
Absolutely.
And this is going to be a good segue into what I'm going to talk to next. But like he's one of those people that like he talks about it. It was like it was a 27-year process.
Yeah, like working in Home Depot and then doing the writing on the side and writing and writing and writing. And he is just so phenomenal. And now he's literally everywhere where I see people who I don't know through author stuff post me, oh, I'm reading this book. And I then, of course, have to come out and be like, oh my God, it's so good. And have to say how amazing he is as a person. Because, I mean, I know a lot of people are like, I need to separate the artist from the art. Okay, that's fine. But I personally love hearing that when something I love is written by a person that I'm happy to support and happy to just make sure that they're doing really well, I'm super happy with it. If you hear a really pathetic cat, they are lying. They have been fed.
I know. I can hear the mewing.
They're like, mew. That's probably Boba. Boba, go find something else to do.
So like Sean was so last year at Nikon, it was my first Nikon. He was one of the guests of honor along with like Gabino Iglesias, V. Castro, great guests. This year it was Eric Nunnally, Eric LaRocca, and Sina Paleo. So
it wasn't
again,
all Erics. I thought they were going for
all Erics and Asina.
And Asina.
But Sean, who like is famous now, like he's been on the Tonight Show, like he's always on like Barack Obama's must-read list. Like it's like different now, but not.
But you're like it's Sean.
But Sean, so like we're at the conference, we're watching karaoke, and like Sean came over and we sat and talked for hours that night. And I'm like, and it just made me feel better about like, I don't want to say about why we do this show, but I was like, oh, this is kind of why we do this show, because we get to meet these incredible people and see their journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like our journey, you and I, we've been on a rocky journey together because many people know Allison and I met in a online writing group because we were getting ready for like a Twitter pitch. Pit Mad.
Yeah.
Pit Mad, back when we had Twitter.
Oh yeah, before we're like, we're off.
I
No
can't be
offense,
here
if it's
anymore.
still on there, and I know I have to actually, because of some of the stuff I have to do for work, I have to have like a separate account to be able to look at things when I need to check for social media of stuff,
Yeah.
which I will probably need to use when I start querying again and need to look for like stuff for agents, because that's often where they put their pronouns, and I
Yeah.
want to be like respectful of people's pronouns, and that seems to be where they still put them. So I'm like, oh
Yeah,
yes, no.
Twitter is still being used a lot, but yeah, so we met there. We were both at a small press that went kerfuffle. So
Kerf.
we've been through it with each other, highs and lows.
Yes.
And I can't really say anything, but I will say
What am I allowed to say?
if you've been watching this show for a long time, or I have sometimes referred to a secret project. Oh, I'm working on this secret project. I can't say the title. I still can't say the title.
But there's reasons for that now.
There's a reason for it now because
More
I don't know
reasons.
it. I don't know
Yes.
it. But I will say there will be an announcement very soon about the secret project, so it won't be.
Maybe once the title has been decided, that might happen. I don't know.
Yeah, we're close. We're close. We're close
Good.
on that.
Because it is funny, because people have asked me privately, they're like, can you just tell me? I'm like, I'm not allowed to say. And now the irony is, well, it's not going to be that title anyway. So am I allowed later then to say, after you've announced what the title is, what the title would have been? Because then it won't really matter anymore. But there's so many people who have asked me, they're like, well, you have to know. I'm like, I do, but I'm not allowed to say.
That title is still in the running.
Well, and I
title.
still really like that title, even if you're like, but what if it rubs people the wrong way? Then it's like, then there's not a book for them. So
yeah. So I am excited. I'm very proud that this work that will be seeing eyeballs on it at some point.
I'm so excited. I'm like so excited to actually get to read it myself, because you haven't let me read it, even though I feel like I've read it, because I've heard parts of it, but I haven't read the whole thing. And so much about, for those who haven't read Jennifer's voice in writing versus here on the show, you need to go be reading her books. But she has the most fabulous voice, and that's one of the reasons why. So when we first met and I read your work, I was like, oh, I love this. And then I thought you ghosted me. You just are a ghost. That's like a thing. But she'd gone off to Portugal, I think it was. Madrid. Okay, I couldn't remember if it was Portugal or Spain, but she got off to Madrid and was out of contact. And then when came back, we reconnected and everything. But her voice just swept me away, even from that first book. And I've read everything she's put out since then, including shorts. So like, I feel like even if this hadn't happened now, we would be celebrating all the amazing literary fiction pieces you've put out, because you've just been all over. It's like, look at this, look at this, look at this. And I can't keep up.
So
I spent,
so like I think it was like last May, I decided, what if I start submitting to literary journals? Because I have a lot of short work. I have a lot of creative nonfiction pieces. I have some essays. And as people know, like the book industry takes a really long time. Getting an agent takes a long time. Edits to get a book out on Sub take a long time. Being on Sub takes a long time. Selling a book takes a long time.
People know that who are in the industry, but people who aren't literally don't get it. And I feel like one of the big things, like, I get asked a lot, like, here's one of the things about having a podcast and having some books out, which one was from a small publisher, and then I republished it on my own, and the rest have been on my own. They're like, they see that this stuff's there, and then they assume, you must be wildly successful. And I'm like, that's very cute that you think that. But I'm not. But the point is, though, so many of them don't really know how the industry works. So a lot of people have come to me asking about the industry. And even if I haven't necessarily achieved what I want in the industry, I feel like I understand a lot of it. And that, I feel like, is the number one thing, is take whatever timeline you think and slow it down by like a million. Like your record's on 33 or whatever, set it to, it's like, this is how fast it's gonna go.
Because
and then just break the record. So.
Right. Because even in literary journals, like, it's faster turnaround, but it's still like, I submit to literary journals, I'm still getting rejections for things that I submitted last year.
Oh, isn't that lovely?
And these are like flash fiction pieces. This is like,
we're talking 50 words or 500 or less.
I know, it's like 500 words, and it's a year later.
Sometimes it's a process of how many submissions they have, and that's really one of the things about how much the industry has changed. Is literally everybody during COVID thought they should write a book, and even if some of those people wrote the most amazing book. There are so many more people out there trying to get their stuff out there. Some of them self-published and then are like, oh, I'd like to get a deal. So there's just a lot that slows down the process. But I do feel like that's like the number one thing is these things take a long time. And I was querying, I want to say it was like 2001 fall through 2002 fall. And then in like spring of 2004, I got a rejection from something I sent like literally 18 months earlier. And it was like, wow, this is 2 pregnancies worth. This is how long it took you to tell me that. And clearly, like, you know, you don't usually withdraw a query unless you had somebody request. So this wasn't even somebody who was sitting on pages like a partial or a full. This was somebody who just literally had a query in maybe 15 pages. And I'm like, thank you.
Yeah. So it all takes a long time. And yeah, so I started submitting to journals and stuff because I think some of my best work are these shorter pieces, and I just didn't know what to do with them. I still really don't, besides literary journals. But I have had some luck. It was a good year. I think I've had maybe like 10 or 11 pieces picked up.
Awesome. Yeah.
So, and I've kind of slowed down a little doing that because I've been busy like panicking about other things.
Yeah, there's been other emotional things taking their toll, but I think it was a great way for you to flex those other muscles. And I do feel like going back to your voice is absolutely amazing. And so much of your work really is autobiographical or pseudo autobiographical, and being able to even just to say this is
I'm a Leo, so it's hard.
It has to be about this. But it's fine. But that ability to say, hey, I'm actually going to just use my life experiences here and write and process that way. It's so awesome. And you've used some really unconventional storytelling types. I mean, there was one where you're like, how do I edit it? It's a crossword puzzle. And I'm like, what are you doing writing a crossword puzzle? But
so that was an amazing prompt by the wonderful author Diane Zinna, who wrote The All Night Sun. She was a guest on our show. I also have work in her upcoming book called Letting Grief Speak, which is writing portals for life after loss. So she was the one who was like, let's try working in this crossword puzzle. And it was so liberating and so amazing. And it was picked up by a journal I absolutely love, which is Lumina out of the Sarah Lawrence University. But they were like, you have to like edits for this were so weird. Because they'd be like, oh, can we, like we just need to change the order of the clues in this box. And I'm like, oh my gosh. But then for this little tiny crossword puzzle, I just feel like if I can edit that, I can edit anything.
Yeah, I do feel like that's masterclass in having to edit because, I mean, I've read work for other people and I've suggested things like, there should be a comma here. Okay, that's not really all that hard to implement. And so one of the things I'm doing, like, so I'm waiting on beta feedback and some of this stuff. Like,
we need to talk about your book.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, I've had some things given back to me that I'm like, dude, that's such an easy. If the hardest thing I got to do here is switch out Negroni for a grasshopper or Brandy Alexander. Done. That's not a hard edit, but seriously, the machinations of doing that, because I've had harder edits where it's like, I need you to truncate this part. Well, how do I truncate it without losing it or it becoming literally just one word sentences, which are really not sentences anymore? Or, how do I add this without losing the character? Those are really hard, whereas switching out drinks.
Yeah, easy.
Drinks.
So I am about 100 pages into your book.
I didn't realize you'd gotten that far. Yeah, that's about a third of the way done.
Yeah. I did. So I was like reading for fun the Joe Hill arc of King Sorrow.
You have a weird way of describing fun because isn't it called King of Sorrow? It's
just King Sorrow.
Okay.
So I was like, I literally have like 5% left of that book and I'm reading your book. So I'm like, I just have to like finish King Sorrow.
Yeah, don't mix those
up. But I
again.
wanted to have a good chunk of it read before this show because I was really excited to read it because you've been talking about this book. I don't know if you want to say the title.
Maybe. I don't know. One of the things, so the thing is about how long I've been talking about it is what?
I was going to say, and also this is like a concept that is so original.
Yeah, nobody tells.
Right. That's why I'm like,
don't say. The title is a play on a song from the 70s, I think. I don't know if you know that. Did you know that? Okay, I figured you did. You're old enough that you know that. Some of my younger betas, I'll just pat them on the head. And the fact that like the opening line starts with a song line that most people would know. And then I realized my Canadian and UK people are like, I don't know the American national anthem. I'm like, oh, maybe you
Oh
don't.
yeah. I mean, I read that, of course, and I'm like, I know, I get,
And you knew what it was. And
I
it was
knew what date it
italicized.
was. I
But
knew.
and that set the phrase. But it was just funny because they're like, yeah, so I feel like you need to like maybe set like when it is. I'm like, that first line didn't give that. What is this? The national anthem.
No, it's understandable though. Like I have a lot of in
My
the Top
sweet
Secret
Canadian
project.
and UK friends.
It's very like pop culture-y and
Yes,
very
and if they
very
don't,
a woman of a certain age.
yes, and if they don't know those references, and so like one of the things you and I were talking about is like making sure all the references were exactly right on time, and we were talking about whether the Negroni would have been a drink people would have picked at that time if it was popular enough yet that just the random person would be like, yes, two of them are drinking that. So switching that out, totally, those are the kind of things you don't want pulling you out of the book, but there's only so much you can do as far as giving references to people who didn't live it or aren't super aware of that. So you still have to be accurate, but there's only so much you can do about telling people like, hey, you remember this reference? No, because you're only like 23. All right, there's not much I can do about that.
But I mean, I feel like we had, was it Deborah K. Shepherd who was on
Deborah
our
K.
show?
Shepherd, who was like, excuse me, my
This
life is
isn't
not historical fiction.
but I feel like your book takes place in a few different timelines.
It does, yeah.
And one of them I wouldn't consider historical fiction.
But it is.
But it totally,
We're old.
I mean, because we're old.
And that's one of the timelines.
We've been doing this show for half a decade.
I know. Well, it's the whole like, so, but the 90s was 10 years ago, right? And apparently, no, it was not, because my child is almost 15 and she was born in 2010. And that math is not mathing for me. I'm
No,
like,
because it's still 2020 and it will always be 2020.
yeah, we kind of are a perpetual 2020. Yeah. It just is. But yeah, those are the kind of things I want to make sure are super accurate, but also for both timelines that there's enough stuff to really ground people in it, because with the dual timeline, I don't label years, I label now and then, and people not knowing better might think now is like really right now.
Right. Like
now is now in the
why doesn't anybody just use a cell phone?
Because they didn't have them. Yeah. I am going to give somebody a pager just because I can, but I haven't done that.
Weirdly, if you give somebody a pager, that's a really good grounding thing. Of like, oh, this is when it is.
Yeah, and I need to do math because I think I give a date like once, and I need to then do calculations off that. So I have to do math, and it's my own fault.
Yeah, you did that to yourself. But I'm loving your book.
Oh, thank you.
It's so, like I said, we read so much.
This is why I have a hard time with comps, because you're going to say, like, I don't know what to do with this.
No, I just feel like, no, because I already, like, I remember texting you, like, a weird comp of, like, a podcast. Yes. And I'm like, this is exactly the vibe.
It's going on my list of, like, this thing, and friends are telling me about these books and certain things that are, like, title-wise, it's a comp, and the book really isn't a comp, but it still might be enough that the agent knows what to clue in on. Yeah. And so sometimes you have to use that. And we were actually having a talk today in a Discord that I'm in of a bunch of writers about how do you find comps? And the person was like, I haven't been reading enough lately, and I need to rectify that, but how do you find comps for your book? And there's lots of different talk about, like, the voice of this meets the tone of that meets the plot of this with the characters of this and the timeline of that. And it's like a mishmash of all of it. But sometimes it's really about throwing in a comp that just goes, people want to read that. And whether it's perfect or not, you still just use it.
Yeah. And also I think there's such I love those comps where there's two drastically different things where, like, so I have a work in progress that, and I would have been comping it this certain way, even though it totally isn't. I've been saying it's like American Psycho meets Dirty Dancing.
Okay, I know which book you're talking about, and I still think that works.
And I'm like, and it works in a way. It works just enough. Mm-hmm. But I think, like, if you really, like, break down what the story is, people are going to be like, no, it's not that.
But honestly, these were some of the discussions we were having. And so I've been repped before, and one agent I had used one book for my first book, which was, like, it went through so many genres titles, but I think we landed on literary speculative fiction, and they were comping it to the Night Circus. We love the Night Circus. My book was nothing like the Night Circus. I had no idea they were using that as a comp until I read one of the very lovely rejections saying, oh, I totally see why you were comparing this to the Night Circus. I'm like, when were we comparing this to the Night Circus? Because it's not. But sometimes it's just about that book that's just enough like it if you kind of squint to do that. So I know that one of the questions I will be asking my readers is like, hey, do you have other comps for this? And yeah, you just got to kind of go with whatever feels right for it.
Base it on vibes. Vibes alone. It's how I live my whole life.
One of my taglines is just vibes.
I mean, I think most of my books are just vibes. All vibes, no plot.
All vibes, no plot. That's kind of how
I want a t-shirt that says that.
Okay, if I could ever figure out, this is actually one of my stupid things. Can we just talk about merch for a second? Pretend this has anything to do with anything else. So I love merch, and I am terrible about finding things I like. I often have merch that isn't quite right, but it's close enough because it's all I can do. For a while, and I will not say names to embarrass anyone, but for a while I was subscribed to a merch crate kind of thing because a friend had a title in the box and recently canceled it, and half the books I'm like, I have no desire to read any of this stuff, and this merch is random, but I don't care, I got merch, and I'm like just happy to have merch. And I've bought shirts from like bookstores and stuff, but I totally have wanted merch for our show, and we've been asked about merch for our show, and we're like, we don't know how to do that, but eventually we probably should figure that out. And
I mean, it's very easy to like set up a shop on like a Redbubble or something like Zazzle.
But we're like very particular about how it needs to look and how the shirt should feel, because nobody wants one of those uncomfortable, like, yeah, it says I'm cute, but I hate how it feels on my neck.
It's because like you and I for 5 years now have been like, I want a t-shirt, but it has to be like a boat neck, like and most of these places don't offer that.
No, they just offer
a V-neck is not good on me.
Well, and V-neck isn't great on me. I like the ones that are just like the wider neck here, but not super low, because you also have to have room for the words. But I was trying to kind of do something like that on my own, and I loved the trend where it's like this and this and this and this and that. And I had that I was trying to do that for the bourbon books with my character names.
Yes.
And the logo is super cute. I got one, I did it myself, and like half the letters didn't stick. I'm like, crap. So I still wear the shirt around the house, or like if I'm going to Stater Brothers or whatever. But one of these days, like, I want that right. We need to get you a shirt that says all vibes, no plot. And we need like Vox merch. And five years later, one of these days, we'll figure out how to do that.
It. I swear.
I love it.
But yeah, it's been a wonderful 5 years with you. And yeah, we haven't had as many shows this year.
Well,
that's because life gets in the way.
Well, and I've been back working, but also just for people who don't realize, so here's maybe something that sets our show apart from not all of their shows, because I'm sure others do it, but one of the things we'd heard from a lot of authors who'd come on our show is they were surprised we'd read their books. Like, a lot of authors get interviewed by people, and I get it. If you're like Good Morning America and you get an author on every day, you cannot be expected to read every book. Your assistant has written up the 5 asking points that are the same 5 asking points you've gotten everywhere else. This is a rare show where, and this is one of the reasons I love doing it, is that we actually get to talk to authors about what we thought about their book. We never spoil it, and we're never ruining anybody else's book experience. But that's been so amazing. But that also meant that, especially when we were doing a show every week, and I was doing, and I mean, I still do To the Moon, Allison, which is coming up, I guess, on 4 years, maybe. I don't know the math. I don't remember how long after it was we started that, but it was at least a while after that I was doing that separate one, because Jennifer does not want to read romance or science fiction or fantasy, and I respect that.
I will read certain
ones. Like sometimes I say something, you're like sold, and otherwise you're like,
I'm like, I don't want that.
Afterwards, like, I should have read that, but it's fine. Different audiences and different genres, and that's totally fine. But reading that many books, trying to keep up with them, and people are like, you read over 100 books a year.
100 books a year.
And so now, like, we are doing, usually we're aiming for 2 a month, but then sometimes scheduling just doesn't work out, or, the person we want on, it doesn't work for their schedule. So
and sometimes we'll do 3 in a month, sometimes just 1 in a month. But I like it because then we're not under this pressure. Because there were times where I was like reading and trying to finish a book like 5 minutes before showtime. I'm like, I can do it. I can do it.
I can do it. Don't spoil it for me.
And I don't want it to be, I don't want to say I don't want it to be work, but I love being able to read a book, enjoy it. And I will say this for us before we end. This year we had a lot of firsts. So we had Vince Laguna, I'm saying that correctly. He had a book of poetry.
Yes.
And then
his poetry was beautiful.
Beautiful.
I almost used the picture in our thing of me holding his book, but it was not a very good picture of me.
And then we had Jerry Drake, who was our first true crime.
And it was so funny because Jerry was our show most recently, and you totally had to talk me into, like, you were expecting to have to talk me into, right, like, being willing to do this, because when we first started, 5 years ago, we had all these expectations about what we'd be willing to read and how it would be done, and how many shows we'd be doing, and some of that went out the window right away. But I'm like, I will read some horror if it's not too scary. Oh, I'm scared. And I will but I didn't want to do true crime because it's usually too brutal, too scary, and so you were trying to warn me off this one. You're like, just in case. And I'm like, oh, it inspired Twin Peaks. Sold. I'm there. And it was it was not a grisly book whatsoever.
No. And it was definitely, Jerry was a fantastic guest, and he did so much research, and it really was, for those of you who missed that show, please check it out, because Jerry was also dressed fantastically for this.
And that 5 times. Hazel was a good girl. And this really was more of a historical fiction about a crime and how it was investigated. So anybody who's interested in that, you're there. It's not going to be, look at all the gore and the guts and and I've seen way more.
There was never like, she was chopped into pieces, then he went to this place and chopped another person into pieces. So it wasn't that. Well, I don't mind that, but
and one of my beta readers, so they were asking, they're like, so I go in with the right expectations, what genre is this? And I just kind of laughed, because the one issue, besides the dual timeline and all that, is it is a genre that is established. I swear I'm not making something up. But it's called fabulism, which is when it's similar to magical realism, but magical realism is specifically reserved, some people say, just for like Hispanic or Latin voices, and some people say for any post-colonial voices. So it doesn't have to be specifically from one region, but it has to specifically be speaking to that post-colonial experience of the colonized people. And I don't fit that. But some of the same writing style conventions are being used, and when it's that kind of thing, it's called fabulism.
So would like even cowgirls get the blues be fabulism?
I don't know. I would have to check to see what other fits in it. Like, I would say Emily Habbock's Shark Heart fits. And if anybody hasn't read that one, I reached out to her, people. I couldn't get a hold of her. I would love to have her on. I adored that book so much. But it's one of those things where there's fantastical elements in an otherwise real world setting that generally aren't turning everything into magic. So it's not the kind of thing where you're going through a portal and going into another world.
Right. It's just it's just, this is the reality of it.
This is a reality, and that doesn't mean everybody automatically goes along with it. And that doesn't mean people don't necessarily go, this doesn't make sense, but that's still where you're dealing with, as opposed to like high fantasy or contemporary fantasy or urban fantasy. It's very different. And because of that, it gets difficult. But she was asking, I'm like, well, it's fabulism, which my autocorrect turns to fabulous. And I'm like, okay, let's calm down here. But also I'm like, it's speculative. She's like, so long as it isn't horror, I don't want you taking me out of my cozy place. And I'm like, that's totally fine. And this is not horror, not at all. But just having to explain that, I'm just like, this is going to be fun querying, because I have to hope that all the agents know what it means, and that none of them think I'm saying my book is fabulous. Because,
well, I will just say, like, it'll find the right home and the right champion. I have to believe that, because, like, so the Top Secret Project, which has gone through multiple titles, once I can actually talk about this fun little journey, just titles alone is hilarious because it didn't sell based on one title. Changed the title, didn't change anything else, just changed the title, got several offers,
And yet
and yet
we
none of them like that title.
and yet none of them like that title. And we both have talked about how the original title you had would be the kind of title people will pick up knowing nothing else, just going, yeah, I need to at least look at it. And that's like when you're, I mean, it's different when you're online, but when you're in a brick and mortar store and you're looking at stuff, the number one thing I think that makes bestsellers, at least before there's real strong word of mouth, is a title and a cover that is catchy. And so much of that is beyond the author's control, because even if they liked a certain title, things change and you don't always have full control over what your cover looks like. And Frances White says, happy anniversary, love you both and what you do for authors. And Frances is someone who can totally talk to you about the title changing, because her debut, Voyage of the Damned, and if I use the word "the" in front of it, she will come over from Nottingham, UK and smack me, because I've done that way too many times. There's no "the" there. That went through like a million titles in terms of what kind of sense does it evoke and what's the right thing. And it's a perfect title. And it's also shared by like a Nazi book history and like the movie. So if you type it in, please make sure you get the one with pretty fish on the cover and not the historical fiction of
So we're going through some titles now. My agent, my editor, like we're working. But I will say a title did come across today that made me go, "Whoo!"
Okay, you need to tell me that as soon as we're off.
Also, I will. That I was like, oh, I can feel it. So who knows? Nobody knows. But I will say about this book, some people read it. Some editors read it and immediately thought this is a horror book. And some people read it and immediately were like, this is domestic suspense. And some people read it and immediately just thought this is literary fiction. And it's
kind of
all of them. None of that. Like, so with, like, I understand you're like, I don't know what genre it is.
And the thing is, ultimately, it doesn't fully matter.
Doesn't matter.
So long as it's being placed in a way that it appeals to the readers that are going to want it and they're like seeing it in a way that they're like, yes, this is the kind of book I want. It's when there's that disconnect. Like I was recently reading for another friend who had a title that didn't fit the book at all in terms of my expectations. And I suggested, I'm like, this isn't a bad title. It's that when I read this, I'm not feeling the connection to what you have on the page here, and my expectations are wrong. And if I were an agent looking for this, I may not request simply seeing that title. So it gets really complicated, especially because they may change it on you anyway. And Elisa, who was the one who was asking, and she's like, I'd read it even if it had horror, just had to make sure I was securely paced in my cozy zone while reading it. So
okay to be cozy. But all this title talk right before we end, I will never forget, and this was, I think, 2 years ago when we were talking to Clay McLeod Chapman, who I love, Clay, and he was on the show for his book, What Kind of Mother? Since then...
Can I get my imitation of Jennifer? Go ahead.
But since then, everybody needs to read Wake Up and Open Your Eyes. So that's his most recent book. But so Clay's book, What Kind of Mother, features crab elements, which is something I'm petrified of. And he was like, well, the original title for this was Peelers.
And then this was Jennifer. Jennifer takes off her headphones, which has never happened before, where Jennifer's just like, I am noping out. And I was laughing so hard. Because what's really funny is, so when this all started, Jennifer's like, I'm horror. I love horror. Gothic horror, literary horror, but still horror. And I'm like, I'm kind of scared of horror. And my sister's been kind of pushing me that way for literally my entire life. And now it's so funny because I feel like there's so many things that freak out Jennifer that I remember we had a couple, it was like maybe a year ago, we had on here in Ennis with their book Leech. And I loved it. I read it. I'm like, oh, Jennifer, we need to have her on. And we need to have this book on. And you're like, okay, sure. And I completely forgot to warn you how much eyeball stuff was in it. And you're like, eyeballs.
I was listening to that audiobook, and when you listen to an audiobook, like when I listen to an audiobook, sometimes my phone is like really far away. I'm in the kitchen. I've just
can't stop it.
Can't stop it. There were moments in that, and people have to understand it wasn't gory. I mean,
No.
it wasn't gory. It wasn't disgusting. It was beautifully written, but
Mhm.
it was like eyeball things, and I have an issue.
Touching eyeballs with the
Touching
eyeballs,
eyeballs,
things
anything
with your
eyeball.
eyeballs.
So it was like eyeball, and I was like, I didn't want to miss a thing because I felt like it was important, but I got so woozy because of all.
Oh,
I
no.
have like my earbuds in. I had to sit on my kitchen floor. I took one earbud out,
Oh,
thinking
no.
that would help. But I took it out like
I
on the
only hear it
side
a
of the
little bit.
eyeball stuff. I was like, ooh, God.
Oh, dear.
So yeah. Anyway, oops.
And any hoops, you
Any
know.
hoops. We're gonna have maybe 5 more years of this
Yeah,
or more.
I
You're
have no
stuck
idea.
with me.
I mean, I will just keep adding to things of Jennifer can't handle this. And I do have certain things, like I know one of my betas who I adore is not good with like vomit related stuff. And there's
Okay.
one of the things I made her read a while ago had vomit. And she's like, I did okay. I got through it. I'm like, I totally should have warned you. She's like, no, it's fine. It's okay.
I mean,
But
they
it's
should
just,
know our show is called Vox Vomitus. That
doesn't mean, and that doesn't mean what it's supposed to mean. It's supposed to be
but
bird vomit, not
I
like
will, I will say, right before we end, but this is too funny. Diane Zinna, bestie of mine, love Diane. She was one of our very first guests. When her publicist booked her on the show, she has a vomit thing.
She's
And
like,
she was like,
coming on the
I
show.
don't think I want to do this show. What is it? And we were such a new show.
Yeah,
like
there wasn't like a bunch of links to send her because Diane was literally. I remember the Diane episode because it was just when we moved from me doing it in front of my fireplace to in here, and I didn't have this yet. Although Diane has one now, because she's like, "Oh, I love your thing. I'm going to use it." I didn't have this, and I had a green screen up, and my hair kept disappearing. And I watched later. I'm like, I look like I'm doing some kind of magic trick.
Yeah, so we had her early on. So I'm just always thankful that she did move past the vomit thing and come on our show because she's been amazing.
Like, what would happen if I messed that connection?
I know, like the movie Sliding Doors. So we should go because it's been about an hour, and we've got things to do. We're very busy. I will say, upcoming guest. It's a first timer.
Is it really next week?
Is it next week?
It's next week.
I'm gonna double. Yeah, because it's Roman's birthday. We're gonna have Chuck Wendig on our show. So I have met Chuck in person once, and he's lovely, and we've messaged a few times. I was like a huge dork when I met him. Huge dork during every message.
And he's still coming on
the show. I know. I was like, oh my God, I love you. Don't cry on him.
But it's fine because we'll be like, we're in our own rooms. Any tears will not drip on his shirt.
Just like crying. But we're really excited because, again, we didn't know if he was going to come on the show, but we buddy read Staircase in the Woods.
I loved that book so much. Yeah.
So Chuck Wendig is coming up. We're kind of flying by the seat of our pants guest-wise, but we will also have Philip Fracassi coming back for the Autumn Springs Retirement Home Massacre.
Yeah, and I have to check to see when his third rule of time travel, like, is that out yet, or because that's
it's out.
Because I want to have that read before we have him on too. So he might be coming on for one thing, but I might ambush him with some other fangirling about other stuff. And I got to meet Philip in person at the Culver City thing, same place I got Sarah Langan to sign my Caladrius.
I love that. Philip is great. I met him at Chris Golden's House of Last Resort weekend.
Well, another person, I got to meet a few other people there that we still need to arrange to have on the show, like CJ Lead needs to come on. And I also got to meet Chuck Tingle, but only enough for me to be able to determine that he's not really Chris Pine. So I don't know who started that rumor.
I was going to ask you.
Hilarious rumor ever. Like, Chuck Tingle's really Chris Pine. I'm like,
part of me still wants that to be true.
You want it to be true?
I do, because I think it is
so sound the same. That's the thing to me.
Chris Pine is an actor. He can do anything.
He can do anything, but I've seen Chris Pine in plenty of things. I've seen him in Into the Woods. I've seen him obviously in Star Trek. I've seen him in Dungeons and Dragons because my husband made me watch it. He always sounds like Chris Pine.
Well, because never mind. I'm like, look, I'm such a conspiracy theorist
You're
about
like,
this
but
one.
it is.
This
You know
one.
what? I really wish though that I would have come closer and like looked at his mouth, because like that's like the only thing you can usually see of Chuck is his mouth, and I want to be like, do those look like Chris's lips?
Yeah.
Mwah!
Oh my God, amazing. So everybody who's watching this live, who's watching the replay, who you've made it through all of this, who you've been here off and on, or sometimes with us like the full 5 years, I believe Amanda Demore has watched every episode.
Oh my lord. Elisa von Schulman has probably
She
come close.
probably has too.
If she didn't watch it live, she probably watched it later. So
Exactly.
we appreciate my Aunt Lenny has watched a lot of these. I don't know whether she watches it live or not because she's on another coast. She's like in your time zone, so who knows what she's doing. But
Yeah, who knows what she's doing.
often the one who's like, oh, I really liked this book you had on and I'm going to go read it. And I'm like,
I'm
yeah,
always so...
I don't get a commission from that, but yay.
I'm always so impressed when somebody messages me and they're like, oh, I love the interview you did with so-and-so. I bought that book. And it happens enough that it's like, I just love it. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Allison, of course.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Because we've done it 5 years. Here's
5
to another 5, where we'll be, eventually it's going to be like the Golden Girls. But
ooh, okay, that would probably increase our audience share. Thank you for being
a friend. All right, on that note,
we got to
we got to go.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.